Good morning. Hello. We have such an exciting program today, and all of you are in here and mostly through your lunches already. We thought we'd get it going. Welcome to the 12th Annual Showcase. Welcome to all of you in this room, and also to those of you in the class of 24 where we're streaming, and anybody else who might be at their desks here or in other states watching this session. Let's begin by giving a huge round of applause for all of our poster presenters, please. Yeah. Oh, is that not here? It's over there. Okay. Are we all right then? Okay, good. I wanted to recognize we have a couple of guests from the University of Illinois. Are you here? Can you please stand? Yes? Welcome. Welcome. The University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana. As you, many of you know, we stole this idea from Penn State, and there have been about a dozen other universities that have visited us over the years and taken it back and created showcases in their own institutions as well. And I have to tell you, I'm really excited about what we're going to do with this session, but I'm going to roll some credits first because there are a lot of people who helped make this happen. So first of all, the Office of Quality Improvement together with the Office of Human Resource Development are the partners in putting on Showcase, together with our sponsors and partners, the Provost's Office, Vice Chancellor for Administration, and the Memorial Union. Specific organizers, Bruce Harville, who you've seen before and who you'll see again in a minute, was our point person and did a terrific job. When we hire someone new in OQI, we hope they don't read the fine print where it says, in addition to all your consulting responsibilities, you have to run Showcase till we get another new person. PJ Barnes, who's the center of anything happening in OQI, and a great team, Christine Fisher, Ashley Johnson, Jacob Harris, Darren Harris, Nancy Thayer-Hart, Ann Zanzig, Pat Aaliyah, Elizabeth Fidel, and George Watson. For the Office of Human Resource Development, led by Don Shute, Kate Pierre, Lotus Yan. Kate was at the center of so much of what we did. Lotus Yan, Catherine Robertson, Robert Lee. From the Memorial Union, Danielle Poe, Lance Rainey. And from the Pyle Center video staff, thank you for being here, Michelle Jacks, Greg Sitchie, and Matt Stanos. So we are thankful to all of those folks. Please join me in thanking all of those folks for making this happen. So again, Showcase is about you. Raise your hand if you were a poster presenter today. Fabulous. Raise your hand if you have ever been a poster or breakout presenter for a showcase at any point in time. Yeah, that's fabulous. And raise your hand if you found one or more interesting thing to take back with you to your unit. All right. Woo! Fabulous. That's what it's all about. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our Provost, Paul DeLuca. Provost DeLuca has been actively improving this institution for over 35 years. From his research and teaching in medical physics to his leadership in the School of Medicine and Public Health to an unbelievable agenda of initiatives as provost, we could have a whole showcase of the things he's done for this university. So please welcome Provost Paul DeLuca.
Thank you for that overly generous introduction, Maury. Before we go any further, I was delighted to hear that we had people from Illinois Urbana here. It's a pleasure to have other colleagues from the Big Ten visit us, especially from Illinois. Now, I might not say that about Michigan or Michigan State, but in Illinois, we're very happy to have their presence here. I hope there's no one from Michigan or Michigan State in the audience. I should tell you, last fall, I stay in close touch with my provost colleagues in the Big Ten, and I have a tendency to wager now and then, and I wagered a small bet with Michigan State on the football game last fall. good Wisconsin microbrews versus God only knows what they do in Michigan. The fortunate part is he won and I lost. I'm not sure what I would have done with what he sent me, but he enjoyed a case of microbrews on my behalf. So it's a pleasure to be here. OQI does an outstanding job on this. To me, this is an example, or yet another example of what we fondly call the Wisconsin idea, a mechanism by which colleagues, people who are maybe not colleagues, get together, share ideas, think creatively about new applications. You never know what some of these things are going to do. What you do over in one area that improves your life over there very often has a different flavor, a different impact in another area, and we all learn from that process. And it's a pleasure to have that. Now, I was looking over the way this is going to work this afternoon. As I understand, it's 20 seconds a slide. Is that correct? So I've exceeded my 50 seconds by a fair bit, but I can hardly wait to learn what picha kucha is. Do I have that right? So we'll be interested in seeing that. I won't bore you any longer, but they do need to improve their gifts. This is it. I don't know if this is going to hack it, Maury. If this is a bag full of candy, I'd be okay with it. So enjoy the rest of the program. I welcome you once again to this. It's a pleasure to have you all in the audience. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Paul, for your remarks. And as he mentioned, we're using a different format today. It's kind of an experiment. And the format is called, I'll call it Pachakcha, and pronounce it that way. And you might be thinking, well, you know, why not have a more traditional presentation? And although this would never happen at Showcase, of course, we've probably all been in audiences where maybe we didn't look like that, but we felt like that. And so we decided this year we would try something different from just one speaker talking to PowerPoint slides. And so one thought we had was, as an alternative, was TED Talks. And you're probably familiar with those, basically 18-minute presentations by an expert on an interesting topic. And, but that's already being done on campus. The Global Health Initiative, through its incubator series, every 2 weeks at the Witt Town Center, is giving TED Talks, and they're terrific. So if you haven't been, be sure to catch the ones that are yet to come. So then we hit on the idea of an even newer format called Pachakcha. It originated in Japan about 8 years ago, and it was in response to a need at a program where there were going to be 12 speakers presenting one after the other. And someone said, you know, we need to set some rules here or we'll be here all night. So the rules they came up with are kind of the 20 by 20 rules. Basically, every slide, you get 20 slides. Every slide automatically advances after 20 seconds, so you get a total of 6 minutes and 40 seconds. And then finally, the intention is to use visuals that amplify and enhance what you're talking about rather than a set of just words that you're going to repeat to the audience. Well, in the 8 years since Pachakcha began, it's really taken off around the world, and there are now Pachakcha nights almost everywhere you can think of, from Buffalo to Buenos Aires to Manila, Houston, Christchurch, Cape Town. You can pretty much find one anywhere. Now, in case you're wondering if I pronounced it right, that unimpeachable source, Wikipedia, says it's Pachakcha. And it also indicates that it's from a Japanese term meaning the sound of background, sort of indistinguishable conversations, which is exactly not what it has become, because I'm not going to be speaking in the background, but in the foreground. Now, when I was first thinking about how am I going to be creative within this really rigid structure, I started thinking about my freshman music theory class and how we studied the fugues of Bach. And one of the things that we learned in looking at the structure is that this outpouring of what seemed like, you know, wonderful music, and was wonderful music, was actually tethered to a very tight structure. So Bach proved that you can be extremely creative even though you're following a set of very defined rules. Now, I can't necessarily do what Bach did, but I thought, well, it's as good an example as any. Now, I'm going to introduce today's agenda all at once rather than get up and introduce each speaker one at a time. And we do have 5 additional speakers beyond me, actually 7 because 2 of them are pairs presenting pachakshas, and 2 short videos that illustrate other really interesting ways of presenting information. We're going to start with Julie Underwood, Dean of the College of Information, School of Education there. Oh, I just lost 5 seconds. Sorry, Julie. She's going to be talking about building trust to build success. She's thought a lot about the importance of trust on our campus, both for interpersonal relationships, for meetings, and for working together as teams. And she'll be followed by Brad League and Nick Weaver, an IT guy, a PR guy. Somehow they got together and said, you know, we should work together and develop a set of apps just for our campus. And they will be talking about their experience in doing that. Wow, I've got time left. Here we go. Okay. Darren Ike, who has a PhD from our campus and now works all around the country with companies, helping them learn how to be innovative, to take innovative ideas and develop them in creative ways. And particularly be talking about a technique that he uses called the mashup. He'll be followed by 2 students from our College of Engineering. Recently were prize winners at Innovation Days. They got together and said, you know, there's got to be a better way to put wheels on luggage. It just doesn't work well. And what they did is they looked at a totally different application of wheels, a different kind of wheel, and found a way to apply it to luggage. And then finally, our last Pachaksha will be John Detman, director of our Strength and Conditioning program. We all know that athletics does a great job of recruiting, but we all have to recruit too. We need people to join our teams. We need students. We need fellow employees. And John will be talking about best practices they've learned in recruiting, as well as once you recruit somebody, how do you integrate them into your team. And then finally, as I mentioned before, we have 2 short videos we're going to be showing. In the lower left is Stephen Johnson, and you won't actually see his face in the actual video. What you will see is a drawing hand, and as he's talking, the hand will be illustrating the ideas that he's talking about. Probably not something most of us have the capability of doing, but also the points he's making, I think, are so apropos because he talks about the importance of creating spaces where people from different disciplines can get together and share ideas. And the ideas can then fall in love and exchange genetic material. And then finally, the last visual, which is last video, another 4 minutes, Dr. Hans Rosling, a Swedish professor, and he does an incredible job of taking just a mountain of data covering 200 years and 200 countries and somehow in 4 minutes making it crystal clear to us what he's talking about. I had 1 slide left, and I thought, you know, you can't go wrong going out with a Bach fugue. At the end of the 2 videos, I'll come back very briefly as a wrap-up, and then we'll just invite you to seek out any of the speakers informally and ask them about anything that caught your attention in their presentation, or what it's like to stand up here and do a pachaksha. So with that, I thank you again for coming, and I'll turn it over to Julie.
Thank you. So hi, I'm Julie Underwood, and I'm the Dean of the School of Education. But more importantly, I'm a guinea pig on this adventure. 20 slides, 20 seconds. You know, I'm an academic and an attorney. I am much more likely to talk for 7 hours than 7 minutes. So I'm going to do my best and wish me luck. Here at UW-Madison, I think you'll all agree that we have the best of many, many things. The best faculty, the best staff, the best students, and a beautiful location. But we also have many challenges. Partly because of the large size of our university, we've got some unique challenges. But I honestly believe that we can improve our campus and improve our lives on this campus just by improving the way we work with each other. My thinking of this place is that we could actually make quantum leaps forward if we actually had better alignment and better communication for our work, our resources, and all of our activities. Honestly, I believe that we have more silos at the University of Wisconsin than all of Iowa and Minnesota combined. We had better organizational alignment of our work and resources, as well as better communication. You know, we could break down that silo structure and actually do a much better job. But you know what? Silos are a pretty simplistic notion. I honestly believe that here at the University of Wisconsin, we operate from a position of administrative anarchy. Our organizational structures actually look like an Escher painting. We have stuff that doesn't connect to anything. We have doubles of more things than we don't. When we try to improve things, we create workarounds. We create workarounds rather than trying to address problems or trying to break down barriers. We hang on to structures and policies that don't serve us rather than addressing them head on. We create new programs and structures and policies without ever taking down what they were intended to replace. Often we don't say what we mean and we don't do what we say. So how can we improve on this particular situation? So this is a call to actually improve our campus and to improve our working relationships. But I'm not going to force you to listen to the pop management psychology or talk about moving cheese or finding hedgehogs. But I am going to talk about two things that I believe are absolutely fundamental in the process: teams and trust. Fundamental and simple concept of the power of trust is something that we've been underscoring in conversations that we've had, book conversations we've had about a book written by Stephen Covey called The Speed of Trust. But both of them are important, I think, not just trust, but teams and trust. And they don't require additional resources or dramatic logistical changes. And in fact, babies are better at doing these things than we are. And the benefit of both of them on our university is absolutely limitless. The power of teamwork has been expressed quite well by the author of Death by Meeting. If you haven't read Death by Meeting, pick it up. He says, if you could get all the people in an organization rowing in the same direction, you could dominate any industry in any market against any competition at any time. Teams can accomplish more than any one person can ever do alone. There's a difference between a group of people and a team of people. And to be effective teams actually focus on the achievement of the collective results. They hold one another accountable. They commit to decisions and plans of action. They engage in unfiltered communication. And most importantly, they trust one another. Some of our teams, like our sports teams, work at this consistently. Watch how Hughes actually does a behind-the-back pass knowing that his teammate would be there. It's a rather tricky pass, but he knows that his teammate is going to be there. If functioning as a team, a group of players can be outmatched physically and still beat another group as long as that other group isn't functioning well as a team. In many places, we don't have well-functioning teams. And in fact, many of us are quite dysfunctional. We work with and live with and interact with people. And for most people, life is really a highly social environment. But the core of that social environment is trust. If there's positive trust, things go faster, things go better, things go easier. If there's negative trust, the opposite's true. Think about this. You're in a discussion with your colleagues to start a new program. If you work on it, there's finagling, there's things, details that have to be worked out. It goes on and on. But when you're working with your friends, you come to decisions quite easily. You decide what's going to happen. You rely on each other to give each other opinions, to express views. And most importantly, you can rely on them to follow through with what they said they were going to do. Think about the opposite. How many times have you sat in a meeting biting your tongue because you didn't think that the others would respect your view? Or if you gave it, no one would listen. Or, for many of you, How many times have you sat in a meeting and listened to the same conversation over and over and over again, knowing that the same conversation would occur the next month? In low-trust environments, we don't often feel comfortable saying what we think, disagreeing with our colleagues, honestly giving our views. And that's because we don't trust each other. We don't trust each other to actually listen or to give our views. And importantly, we don't trust that we'll actually follow through once decisions have been reached. In low-trust environments, in a relationship or in a part of a team with somebody who's unreliable or untrustworthy, how much energy is there in communicating things in incredible detail? An incredible amount of time is spent laying out the roles, ensuring that everybody knows what they're going to do or hope you know what they're going to do, and it's absolutely tiring. Besides that, it's just a big time waster. When we have low-trust environments, we end up duplicating efforts. We do our colleagues' jobs for them. And we do that because we're worried that they're not going to do their own jobs. So we've got to follow up with them to make sure that they follow through. Or we do it in addition, in parallel. Low trust on our environment leads to division, divisiveness, and duplication. It's a serious problem. And when we fail to trust one another, we create duplicative programs to make sure that our students are taken care of, structures to make sure that our interests are taken care of. It's just one of those things where in low-trust environments, we actually create huge bureaucracies to ensure everyone's doing what they said they were going to do. In high-trust environments, people give each other the benefit of the doubt. They actually know that they're going to get an honest opinion. They know that views are going to be aired. They know, more importantly, that people will actually carry out and carry through. They don't worry about who gets credit because they trust everyone will. In organizations with positive trust, trust becomes a multiplier. As Columbia Business School professor John Whitney says, mistrust doubles the cost of doing business. Now, trust isn't the only thing that needs to happen, but it's a great place to start. It's an incredible element for a well-functioning team. So think about meetings that are brief and efficient, where everyone speaks their mind and you know people are going to carry out their roles. The necessity for trust is apparent, but really building trust is the hard part. Building trust is harder than anything else, and it's quite easy to lose trust. The heart of trust is integrity and reliability. Can you be believed? Can you count on others to carry through? It takes a lot of individual and group effort. But the changes that result from making a simple, fundamental shift in building trust and building teams would actually make this campus a lot better, would make life a lot easier, change a lot faster, and be a better place to be. Thanks.
Remember I said there was a PR guy and a technical guy? Can you figure out which one's which?
Are we running off the native slide or the web? Okay. There we go.
We threw a little wrench into the process here by using a different presentation platform than was prescribed. So bear with us a little bit. Okay, yeah, let's go. Here we go. My name is Nick Weaver. I'm the Director of Online Services for University Communications. This is Brad League, Senior Software Developer for Do It Academic Technology. We're here to tell you a little bit about Mobile UW, a project we've worked together on for the last year. We're going to show you a little bit about what it's about.
But the first thing is we wanted to ask is how many people have one of these? iPhone, Android phone, Windows phone? Well, looks like quite a few. Well, good news is you're not alone. Waiting for the rest of the seconds.
So if you feel like you're seeing more and more people with fancy phones out there, you're right. For example, the last quarter of 2010, it's the first time that smartphone devices outsold PC desktops and laptops. That trend is going to continue, and mobile will continue to play a big role. And
as Nick showed, it's a worldwide trend, but as you guys just demonstrated, and as this photo demonstrates, it's here on campus. It's in Madison. It's here. We're in that environment. This photo actually was taken from last fall's Chancellor's Convocation, so apologies to Chancellor Martin for that.
So how did we respond as a campus to this growing trend? Well, to be honest, we struggled at first. We tried to come up with project plans and goals. What we found is we needed to get creative people together and just start working on ideas and building stuff. For Brad and I, that meant a lot of meetings over coffee at various locations all around Madison. We're both fortunate to have had managers, in my case, Amy Toburin, Brad's case, Kathy Kristoff, who had trust in us to just go out, start working on things, start building things, and see what we would come up with.
Part of this also we discovered meant getting away from the kind of the physical, old traditional, structured algorithmic environments of everyone's cube farm, and move to an area that Dan Pink in his book Drive refers to as much more relaxed, creative, and much more heuristic. And this is actually a photo of 2 doors down, which I'll come clean and admit that a good chunk of the Mobile UW app that's running on your iPhone was actually written in that room, as opposed to some strategic bunker on Dayton Street. And another thing that we also found is creative work needs space. We need to move away from interruptions. There's also another great TED Talk given by Jason Fried, who works for Basecamp, if anyone's heard of that, about why work doesn't actually work at work, and basically trying to avoid distractions and things like that. So,
as much as we would like to work in isolation, we knew that we had to reach out to some other people to check our ideas. So we checked in with people at Washington, Texas, Iowa, Michigan, MIT, because everybody's dealing with the same problem at the same time. Find out how other people are tackling it. We also checked in with some of our system campuses around the state. We've been in touch with people at Oshkosh, UW-Milwaukee, sharing knowledge like what we're all doing here today. We're going to transition into showing you a little bit of what the app itself does here.
So what is Mobile UW, you might ask? Well, it's the university's institutional iPhone app, soon coming to Android for all of you Android lovers. But one of the main features is people directory, so no matter where you are on campus, you can find a person, whether their phone number, their email, get directions to where they are.
Another thing you can do with the app is find out what's going on around campus. You can find out what's going on by topic, see what's going on any given date, see a map showing on any given day where various events are taking place. Find an event, you can get driving directions to it, walking directions to it.
And then also one of the more popular features is we partnered outside of the university with Madison Metro and got their bus transit information and their data, so we can actually find a bus stop near you, what time's the next bus coming, as well as just be able to take advantage of the platform and also help Madison Metro out.
So hopefully you can see there's a lot of utility built into the app, but it's also a great tool for engaging members of our campus community all around the world. You can get news, video about research, student life, learning anything that you want to stay in touch with what's happening on campus.
So from there, the big things that we learned about this process in terms of collaboration, but the biggest thing in terms of the mobile space is data is king. It doesn't matter the device you're on. It's all about data, and it's all about sharing that data. And as you can see, we've got data coming from many different sources, some on campus, some not on campus.
So how's it going so far? We launched the iPhone app in early December. So far, we've had over 10,000 downloads. We're getting about 1,000 visits a day. You can see some peak usage, most notably on the snowstorm when classes got canceled. People are relying on this to stay in touch with the university and communicate.
And it's also used, it's a great example of the Wisconsin idea, as Provost alluded to earlier, is where this is actually being used all over the state, in every part of the state. Since then, it literally is keeping Badgers connected no matter where they're living throughout the state of Wisconsin with here in Madison.
And globally, to date, we've had people using the app now in at least 66 different countries. Most notably, we're seeing a lot of usage from East Asia, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, driving home some of the strategic relationships that the university is really focused on developing there. So it's a really quick overview of what Mobile UW is. We encourage you to visit our project website, mobile.wis.edu. You can learn more. Share your ideas with us there. We love hearing from people. We want to make it better. Thanks a lot.
Hello, hello. Good to be here. My name is Darren Eichen. Before we get started, maybe think about a challenge in your mind, something that you would like ideas for, maybe to build. And this is going to be choose your own adventure style. Here is choice A. It's the eagle-eye view of my presentation, the 1,000-foot view. And it's choice A. Choice A for you. Reminds me of Friday growing up in Preston, Minnesota, when the weekly reader would come and we'd get to choose your own adventure books with that as well. But this is choice B. How many people here would rather see choice B for the presentation today than A? All right, good, because it's locked and loaded, so there was really no option for choice A. So you like this probably because it's visual, probably because you might see some stories behind that. So whenever I'm communicating an idea, I think about communicating it with simple Sam V. What are the stories to share? Are there analogies and metaphors to use to relate? And are there visuals to show to help people get it, become engaged with this idea? Because change is happening all around us. Either we're responding to the change or we're driving the change. That is why we need these new ideas. So a good story to tell is if you have the story of your idea, make sure you keep on the roots and the dirt so people can see where it's coming from. So where is this stuff coming from that I'm talking about today? Well, I was facilitating a leadership retreat at UW during my PhD program in the School of Ed, and I met Anand Chatpar up there. He had a vision to connect the idea generators of the world with the idea implementers. So we ended up creating this company called Brain Reactions, where we recruited, assessed, trained the most creative students at UW, and then connected them to do innovation projects for companies like Procter & Gamble, the UN, the Council on Competitiveness. And then later did this thing called Innovation Trip, where we brought executives to Boston, to Harvard, to MIT, flew them to Silicon Valley, to Stanford, to IDEO, to show them the best of American innovation firsthand. So that's what I'm into now, is how do we teach people innovation and facilitate them through doing it, and they learn it by doing it. Well, we want to help you come up with a breakthrough idea, something that will help you. And man, I had this LASIK eye surgery done. Wow, completely disrupted my need for contact lenses and for glasses. What if you could come up with an idea like that that was disruptive, that was breakthrough? You need to come up with a lot of ideas. I love this. Ways to be cool, like a high schooler. I wanted to be cool in high school. It never happened. I should have done this brainstorm. Motorcycles, wear cologne, move to Williamsburg, learn to speak European, grow facial hair. These are great ideas. And that's how it should be done, a whole list of ideas. Here are my tips. First of all, capture all of your ideas like that person did. 2, go for quantity. Come up with 100 ideas. Use questions. The more questions, the better the ideas. Don't judge your ideas. That person obviously didn't. And finally, use these things known as idea generation tools, right? It's like looking at your problem through a different set of lenses. It's like using a Swiss Army knife. Don't just stop when you have a few ideas. Keep going. Don't rely on chance. Your best ideas may not come during the shower, on the drive, or in your meeting. So I was in Austin, Texas recently for this thing called South by Southwest, and they had the Circus Mashimus Gallery. And it's about mashed up concepts, like the spork, when the fork married the spoon, right? And there were some other brilliant ones there, like the El Camino, and you know what that is a marriage of. The car and the truck, or the mermaid. So there are mashups happening all around. A lot of good ideas become mashups. You even see them in literature. Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, with zombies, right, mashed in there. Songs that are 2 artists together. Web apps that are the mashup of this bus schedule app and this iPhone app, for example. So what can you mash up when you're coming up with ideas? Maybe it's a service learning, a mashup of a community service project with your course. Maybe it's a mashup of a mobile device with how you're marketing your program. Maybe it's a mashup of YouTube and how you communicate your program. But what are mashups you can do? So let's say we've come up with a lot of ideas. We have that long list of ways to be cool ourselves. And we now need to analyze these ideas. I don't know if anybody has ever picked up one of these in the woods, but I advise not, because this used to be a mouse. You see, an owl finds a mouse and eats it for dinner. And what he does is he takes the whole mouse in. And the owl will only keep what he needs. That's the good meat of the mouse. And he'll spit out everything he doesn't need into a ball of fur and bones. That was what you saw, an owl pellet. So you need to go about analyzing your ideas because you have so many of them that you didn't judge. There aren't good ones in there. You need to analyze them like the owl, where you quickly go through and highlight the meat, the ones you want to work with, such as, I like, learn to speak European, learn to play guitar, become a band photographer, online friendships, make your own movie, and hang out with Steve. Those are my favorite ideas that this student came up with on ways to be cool. And then what you do next is these ideas are like raw materials. They're like trees. You need lumber to make a good cabinet, right? So you take one of the ideas you like and you let it branch out. Like, I like make your own movie, and I'm even going to mash up into that. How about make a documentary about Steve? How about share the movie on Facebook with my friends online? Or how about learn guitar from the band? So to get a breakthrough idea, it isn't one inventor in the garage just getting it. It's a process of building a lot of ideas, mashing them together, going through stages, iterating, developing to get there. That is how you get a breakthrough idea. When we would do our projects for clients, we would generate sometimes 1,000 different ideas for new products or ways to communicate things. But the key is the analysis process, the building from there. And most importantly, you got to communicate like Simple Sam V. You may have already come up with a brilliant idea, but nobody gets it. Nobody understands it. Nobody wants to collaborate because you haven't communicated in a way that sticks with them. Those stories, analogies, metaphors, and visuals. And we need to communicate these innovations and ideas we have in an ancient and modern way, right? We've been telling stories around the fire for thousands of years. So communicate your idea much like you're sitting around the fire with your grandma or with a high school student. Communicate it simply so that they get it and become engaged with it. Thank you.
Do this? I hope so. It's a tough one to follow up, though, but we'll try.
Yep. Here we go.
All right. So hello, everyone. My name is Scott Johannek. I'm a senior here at the UW studying mechanical engineering. And this handsome gentleman here is Jeff Inhofer, who is a junior mechanical engineer, also pursuing a certificate in business.
Yep, and we are excited to be here today to talk to you guys about our journey of innovation through application. So sit back in your seats and enjoy the show. First off, I'd like to start with what is innovation through application, and what the heck does Flavor Flav have to do with it?
Yep. So innovation through application basically is taking an idea and its capabilities in one field and applying it to another.
Yep, and this means that Flavor Flav and his wall clock jewelry is actually very innovative.
Very true. So, innovation comes in many shapes and forms and has limitless capabilities. Hey, Jeff, did you ever know what bubble wrap was originally intended for?
You mean it wasn't made to package my new Chia Pet?
No, actually it was meant for a 3D wallpaper.
Oh, but it actually failed as 3D wallpaper, and it found its real niche in the marketing, in the manufacturing and packaging industry.
Yep, and even in its most simplest form, innovation through application can be really helpful.
Now I don't have to feel wasteful when I throw away those bottles of alcohol.
Well, are you sure you don't mean wasted?
Oh, Scott, let's try to be classy in front of all these fine people at the showcase.
All right, sorry, buddy, sorry. All right.
Ooh, got a little extra time here.
I guess so. All right. So, we've seen this idea of innovation through application that we could incorporate into the travel industry and get rid of the problem of the rollover that causes during traditional luggage.
Yep, and one day Scotty calls me up and he's in a fit of rage about how he was just walking around the airport and he was talking to these cute girls and he just kicked over his luggage and it spilled his undergarments all over the place. So guess who didn't get any phone numbers that day?
This guy. So to make sure that didn't happen again, I started researching the luggage market and seeing if there's any other companies that have a solution for this.
Yep, we didn't find anything that we liked too much.
Yep. So, but we did find some products, however, that boasted a really remarkable maneuverability capabilities, such as the Dyson ball and some interesting wheels that's used in the robotics industry.
Mm-hmm. And using some innovation through application and a fair bit of brain power, we might add, Glide Luggage was born. And just like that, Scott doesn't have to look like a fool anymore in the middle of the airport.
Exactly. I like that idea, Jeffrey.
Yep.
All right, so this sometimes wonderful relationship with Scott and Jeffy started about a year and a half ago when we met in class, and we actually found out we were pretty similar.
Yep, we actually found out that Scott was a member of the SAE Baja team, and I was on the Formula SAE team, and they were just about 2 bays apart in the automotive center.
Yep, so we started with discussions of engines, horsepowers, and of course girls, and we started a dynamic duo.
Yep, and despite being very similar with our interests, we found out that we had greatly different backgrounds.
Yep, I'm accustomed to the little house on the prairie lifestyle, growing up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. Well, Jeff grew up in the cul-de-sacs and suburban block parties of Minnesota, which is why I like to call him the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yep, and even though we had all these similar interests, we found that we did have quite different ideas of where we wanted to go with our degrees. And Scott had always been the guy who was interested in production and the manufacturing processes behind a whole bunch of different products. When it comes to nitty-gritty details and finding how the product is functional, Scott is the man.
Well, thanks, Jeffy. I'm glad you think so. And Jeff, on the other end, he has a more simple approach to business, and that's money, money, money. Sun up to sun down. If it doesn't make us more money, it just isn't going to fly with him. So, since we both have different focuses, we are easily able to segment our work, and since we know a little bit about each other's tasks, we're able to keep each other on our toes so we can create the most lucrative outcome.
Yep, and we have one mantra that we fit behind, and it's from one of my most influential idols, Mr. Henry Ford. And that saying is, coming together is beginning, staying together is progress, working together is success. And it reminds us that joining forces is only the very beginning. We need to create a well-defined and enjoyable working relationship to reach our goals.
Yep. And so when this all goes awry, which it usually does, and we come into issues, we revert back to our love-hate relationship. We find ourselves many times saying, I love you, but you're being stupid.
Yep. But as soon as we take a quick breather and we get back on track to that goal of working together is success.
Yep. So, because we know that without teamwork, nothing would be possible. We won't be able to get our ice cubes for our celebratory drinks, and we won't be able to hand our sweethearts her nicely scented rose. And we know that since we're both college students, at the end of the week, what's more important than a drink and a rose?
That's right, Scott. However, once we're done drinking, we get back right down to where we are and where do we go from here. And then where do we actually go from here, Scott?
Yep. So actually, Jeff and I sat down one day and started a discussion about our past and where we want to be in the future. And we both came to a general conclusion. We really don't like to work for anybody.
No, that's right. And so in order to make this dream a reality, we had to try to find a business plan or a well-defined goal, something that we could get behind and something that would be very lucrative in the future.
Yep. So we found this chalkboard on State Street, and using our great engineering diagram skills, we came up with a business plan that we feel is going to be pretty bulletproof.
Oh. I don't think we got the right one up there, Scott.
Jeff, I gave you one task. You couldn't... God, Jeff. All right,
Sorry,
well, I think they get the idea anyway.
All right, well, getting back to our real business plan, it all begins with this. Clerisy Innovation Studios.
Yep, Claris Innovation Studios, we started to compile all of our great ideas under one brand name, so that way it can get trust and respect in the U.S. community households as well as companies, and hopefully someday gain respect throughout the world.
Yep, and the first goal of Clarisy is to create a product out of what we've already made, and that is Glide Luggage. And we want to try to get something that's going to make our product come into the hands of the consumers, so you guys don't have to look like fools anymore in the middle of the airport, and you can be appealing for all the ladies out there, or maybe the gentlemen if that's what you're into.
I like that idea, Jeff. Yeah, I liked that idea. It was a sad day. They were so cute. They were so cute. Yep. So hopefully, if everything works exactly the way we plan, and I always say this word because he hates it when I say exactly, and I don't really know why, we'll be sitting on our nice paradise on the beach with our honeys and their rose in hand with our celebratory drinks, hopefully basking in the world and everything we created.
Yep. So with that, we'd like to say thank you, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation. And we'd like to thank all of our friends and family.
Yep. As well as university staff with all their support, because they have been extremely helpful to us, and many staff outside of university. Without this and your support, none of this would have been possible. And thank you for all the progress that we've come to, and hopefully we'll make you guys proud.
Yep. And if you'd like to come talk to us afterwards, please feel free to. We're chatty guys, as you can tell.
Testing. We got it. All right. Again, I'm here today to talk about recruiting, and just to give you a little bit of a background, my history here is I've been here going on 22 years. Came here with Coach Alvarez back in 1990, but I've been intimately involved in the recruitment of a multitude of student athletes to our campus. And again, I think a lot of recruitment opportunities are very similar in your setting as well. I think the most important thing that you have to be in recruiting is be a great storyteller. Recruiting is a salesmanship opportunity. It's selling what your strengths are compared to the competitors, the people that you are recruiting against. So ultimately, you got to know your story, know it well, and tell it well. One of the things that we sell in recruiting is this institution, the academic opportunity here, the degree, the class of the organization. We sell what you guys do to our student athletes as much as anything else, because getting a degree from here means something in the real world. And as the world transitions, you have to remember this is a world-class institution. Again, it has a worldwide global prominence. And again, people that want to come to attend this university come here to get a degree and ultimately be in a position where they have a worldly or global perspective. One of the things we also sell is the city. The surrounding community has been recognized as a most livable area in the country for many, many different publications. We sell the beautiful natural beauty of the surrounding area, and we sell the environment, the dynamic environment and the bustling activity that the college experience gives you. We also sell support. And again, that support comes in many forms. It comes from our students in terms of supporting our athletes. It comes from the campus community, those individuals that work with our athletes. And it also comes from the community of Madison itself. So again, that piece, believe it or not, those people become these people. Okay? Kenny Dichter, who's the founder of Marquee Jet, is also the founder of Bleacher Creatures. It was something that was created by Kenny as a student here in 1990 to entice the students to come back to football games. So they become these leaders in the business community. Among Kenny, there's multitudes of other ones. Carol's the CEO of Yahoo. Chow is the CEO of MTR. Keith is the CEO of Rockwell. That prominent alumni base is something that we sell because, again, what does that mean to them? That means getting a degree from here and having that affiliation with the people that have gone before them has another opportunity for them, connects them to the world. So the reality of it is when you're talking to any individual, recruiting them, talk to them about the value of not only the education, but the people that have gone before them and how that connects them to all those other individuals. So long story short, I think from a recruiting standpoint, then you have to start looking at the individual. They want to know where they fit. They don't want to just be recruited for a position. They want to understand how they fit in your organization, what contribution they're going to make. And to them, the meaningful piece of that is they want to see that plan. How are they going to contribute to what you're asking them to do? The plan has to lead to success. So ultimately, when they're coming here, whether it's a team, whether it's a department, no matter what it is, they want to see and hear the plan. How do I fit? What's this path going to take? Who am I working with? And how are we going to get there? And what is it going to lead us to? I think in the end, they also want to know that there's collaboration. There's a collective effort. They don't want to be doing this alone. They want to know that they're going to be doing it with other people. The silo thing we talked about a little bit. Think about that. They want to come into an environment where they know there's collaboration and support and strength. Okay? So ultimately, the other biggest challenge, what makes you different? What makes you unique? Because you have to remember, they'll be recruited by other people to do the same thing somewhere else. And they're hearing the exact same things from them that they're hearing from you. So if you don't define what makes you different or what makes you stand out, then your chances of recruiting those individuals are minimized. For you non-botanists in the room, this is a passion flower. People are drawn to passion. Okay? The other thing that's very important is that they want to be around passionate people. People that are excited about what they do. People, again, if you want a really extremely dynamic environment, have it being led by passionate people who are excited about what they do, who are enthusiastic about what they do. And the combination of those three things, particularly in our environment, it's really important, but I think in all environments it holds true. You get a passionate person around an enthusiastic and excited person, and you've created an environment where people want to be. And the other part, because they want to know that you care about them. We're in the business of recruiting sons and daughters. So they're going to typically visit our campus with their parents. Their parents better feel that we care about them, that we're going to look out for their best interests, and we're going to watch out for them. And again, so in your recruiting an environment, they want to know that you care, and they want a sense of family. We always talk to our athletes, people that recruit in our coaching profession, join the Badger family. Come into our family, be one of us. But again, that sense of family in a work environment is a really dynamic, powerful thing. And I think those combinations, along with doing your homework, we find out every minor detail about a kid. We know his brothers and sisters' names. We know his grandfather's name. We know who's influential in his life. And when we're talking to them about recruiting, we're mentioning those people. Because if you don't do your homework, the long story short, you can't separate yourself from anybody else. And in order to get that homework accomplished, it allows you to know what buttons to push. Because if you know what buttons to push in a recruitment situation, then you know those things that are going to trigger something from them. And ultimately, knowing what buttons to push will lead you to the end goal of getting that decision. And we define that in the coaching profession in one of two ways. Get them to pull the trigger. Okay? How are they going to make a decision to come with you, to join you? Because in the end goal, again, in recruitment, is you want them to be a part of your operation, your team, your organization, and forcing that decision, it leads into all the other things we talked about. Thank you.
For the past 5 years, I've been investigating this question of where good ideas come from. It's the kind of problem I think all of us are intrinsically interested in. We want to be more creative. We want to come up with better ideas. We want our organizations to be more innovative. I've looked at this problem from an environmental perspective. What are the spaces that have historically led to unusual rates of creativity and innovation? And what I've found in all of these systems, there are these recurring patterns that you see again and again that are crucial to creating environments that are unusually innovative. One pattern I call the slow hunch, that breakthrough ideas almost never come in a moment of great insight, in a sudden stroke of inspiration. Most important ideas take a long time to evolve, and they spend a long time dormant in the background. It isn't until the idea has had 2 or 3 years, sometimes 10 or 20 years to mature, that it suddenly becomes accessible to you and useful to you in a certain way. And this is partially because good ideas normally come from the collision between smaller hunches, so that they form something bigger than themselves. So you see a lot in the history of innovation, cases of someone who has half of an idea. There's a great story about the invention of the World Wide Web and Tim Berners-Lee. This is a project that Berners-Lee worked on for 10 years. But when he started, he didn't have a full vision for this new medium he was going to invent. He started working on one project as a side project to help him organize his own data. He scrapped that after a couple years, and he started working on another thing. And only after about 10 years did the full vision of the World Wide Web come into being. That is, more often than not, how ideas happen. They need time to incubate, and they spend a lot of time in this partial hunch form. The other thing that's important when you think about ideas this way is that when ideas take form in this hunch state, they need to collide with other hunches. Oftentimes, the thing that turns a hunch into a real breakthrough is another hunch that's lurking in somebody else's mind. And you have to figure out a way to create systems that allow those hunches to come together and turn into something bigger than the sum of their parts. That's why, for instance, the coffee house in the age of the Enlightenment, or the Parisian salons of modernism, were such engines of creativity, because they created a space where ideas could mingle and swap and create new forms. When you look at the problem of innovation from this perspective, it sheds a lot of important light on the debate we've been having recently about what the internet is doing to our brains. Are we getting overwhelmed with an always connected, multitasking lifestyle? And is that going to lead to less sophisticated thoughts as we move away from the slower, deeper, contemplative state of reading, for instance? Obviously, I'm a big fan of reading. But I think it's important to remember that the great driver of scientific innovation and technological innovation has been the historic increase in connectivity and our ability to reach out and exchange ideas with other people and to borrow other people's hunches and combine them with our hunches and turn them into something new. That really has, I think, been, more than anything else, the primary engine of creativity and innovation over the last 600 or 700 years. And so, yes, it's true we're more distracted. But what has happened that is really miraculous and marvelous over the last 15 years is that we have so many new ways to connect and so many new ways to reach out and find other people who have that missing piece that will complete the idea we're working on, or to stumble serendipitously across some amazing new piece of information that we can use to build and improve our own ideas. That's the real lesson of where good ideas come from, that chance favors the connected mind.
So, here we go. First, an axis for health. Life expectancy, from 25 years to 75 years. And down here, an axis for wealth, income per person, $400,000, $4,000, and $40,000. So down here is poor and sick, and up here is rich and healthy. Now, I'm going to show you the world 200 years ago, in 1810. Here come all the countries. Europe brown, Asia red, Middle East green, Africa south of Sahara blue, and the Americas yellow. And the size of the country bubbles show the size of the population. And in 1810, it was pretty crowded down there, wasn't it? All countries were sick and poor. Life expectancy were below 40 in all countries. And only UK and the Netherlands were slightly better off, but not much. And now, why start the world? The Industrial Revolution makes countries in Europe and elsewhere move away from the rest. But the colonized countries in Asia and Africa, they are stuck down there. And eventually, the Western countries get healthier and healthier. And now we slow down to show the impact of the First World War and the Spanish flu epidemic. What a catastrophe! And now I speed up through the 1920s and the 1930s. And in spite of the Great Depression, Western countries forge on towards greater wealth and health. Japan and some others try to follow, but most countries stay down here. Now, after the tragedies of the Second World War, we stop a bit to look at the world in 1948. 1948 was a great year. The war was over, Sweden topped the medal table at the Winter Olympics, and I was born. But the differences between the countries of the world was wider than ever. United States was in the front, Japan was catching up. Brazil was way behind, Iran was getting a little richer from oil, but still had short lives. And the Asian giants China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Indonesia, they were still poor and sick down here. But look what is about to happen. Here we go again. In my lifetime, former colonies gained independence, and then finally they started to get healthier and healthier and healthier. And in the 1970s, then countries in Asia and Latin America started to catch up with the Western countries. They became the emerging economies. Some in Africa follows. Some Africans were stuck in civil war and others hit by HIV. And now we can see the world today in the most up-to-date statistics. Most people today live in the middle, but there are huge differences at the same time between the best of countries and the worst of countries. And there are also huge inequalities within countries. These bubbles show country averages, but I can split them. Take China, I can split it into provinces. There goes Shanghai. It has the same wealth and health as Italy today. And there is the poor inland province Guizhou. It is like Pakistan. And if I split it further, the rural parts are like Ghana in Africa.
And yet, despite the enormous disparities today, we have seen 200 years of remarkable progress. That huge historical gap between the West and the rest is now closing. We have become an entirely new converging world. And I see a clear trend into the future. With aid, trade, green technology and peace, it's fully possible that everyone can make it to the healthy, wealthy corner.
Well, what you just seen in the last few minutes is a story of 200 countries shown over 200 years and beyond. It involved plotting of 120,000 numbers. Pretty neat, huh?
Well, thank you again for coming today and being a participant in our little experiment of alternative ways to present information. First, I'd really like to thank our speakers once again who signed up for this, really not fully understanding, I'm sure, what it was they were getting into, and gamely went along with it. Yeah. And by the way, you all did great. Thank you so much. And I'd also really like to thank Jacob Harris, who was here. You just saw him manning the technology, but what you didn't see is the last 6 or 8 weeks where he was helping each of us find the right images to put on our presentations, coaching us, encouraging us, occasionally nagging us, just to make sure that we were making progress in what we were doing. So Jake, thank you so much. It was incredibly helpful. I also probably should just note that Don Deutsch, who showed up on Skype occasionally, we ended up switching out using my personal computer at the last minute. He's a friend in Minneapolis. I'll call him, after we get done here. So now, I've asked all of our speakers to stay behind. I'm sure that with all the different kinds of presentations you heard, you have some questions or comments you'd like to make with them. You may be curious about their experience in putting together a pachaksha as opposed to a traditional presentation. So I'll just ask them to sort of arrange themselves around the front of the room, and feel free to come and talk to any of them that you'd like to. And that ends Showcase 2011 then. Thank you again for coming, and look forward to getting our announcement for Showcase 2012. Thank you.